listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
So what is your, what's the word I'm looking for? Suggestion for when you have one of those days where you just, it's not enough to really, like nothing terrible happened, right? You can't really go to someone and talk about something terrible, but it's just been one of those days. What do you do?
I feel like I let myself indulge in something. Like I go out for dinner or I don't know, do some retail therapy or something like that. Yeah, it's
okay.
kind of lame, but that's what I do.
Sometimes I nap to try and reset.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That occasionally can work. Or I really enjoy I don't need to go for a really long walk or put myself in the woods or anything, but sometimes it's just nice to have air touch my face because I work from home and I don't leave home often enough. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's kind of, that helps.
Well, I do find Lisa, you have dogs, but I find that walking my dog can sometimes just change my mood.
Yeah,
That's good.
That is good.
That's
That's true. That's true. You know, it's funny. I read an opinion piece in the New York Times this weekend, which was about this woman saying, if someone calls me and says, "Hey, do you want to go on a walk?" No, I want to walk alone. I don't want to walk with anyone. I will do lots of other things with you. I will go for coffee, a dinner, a movie, but I will never walk with someone. I need to walk alone.
Interesting.
Yeah. And she said, my walking time is my thinking time. It's where I will be able to help you out at coffee and offer up some thoughts. But without the empty walking, I can't do it.
Well, I do find that I always, I never wear headphones or listen to anything when I'm walking. I just walk with my dog. And I know, for instance, my husband, Joe, he's constantly wearing headphones and listening to stuff all the time when he walks the dog. And so I don't know if, do you listen to anything or do you need to have a clear head?
I used to be much more into listening to things, and now I don't want to. Now I really do want, now I kind of feel weird about the fact that I leave work and then put headphones right in, because all I've been doing is listening to sounds. And then I want to get out and listen to more sounds. No, I just want nothing. As much as the city is nothing.
I think there's something really nice sometimes about urban sounds or just listening to the world that exists as it is without putting headphones. I do find sometimes things are just very loud, so I will sometimes wear my noise canceling headphones while I'm out and about.
Doesn't that scare you?
Listening to anything.
Doesn't it I'm always nervous that someone will be yelling, "Look out, zombie attack," and I'll miss that.
You can still hear that.
Oh, okay.
It's more noise deadening, I think. It's not zero sound from, or at least the way my AirPods work. But it kind of dulls a lot of the sort of atmospheric sound so that it's I also sometimes I have to use oh my God, earplugs at concerts and stuff, right? And I've lost words, guys. I don't know what's going on.
Late.
Earplugs at concerts. I started doing that 10 years ago, which is good because I go to too many shows and some shows are extremely loud and I wanted to protect my hearing. And so I will, even sometimes when I'm at the movies, I try to make sure that I have my earphone or my earplugs with me because sometimes movies are way too loud for me and I can still hear it. But and I can still hear the words and everything, but it just filters the sound down to something more manageable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely wear earplugs to live things as much as possible. But Yeah, I just like when I'm walking, I like to be kind of present in my like wherever I am, and I feel like I don't like listening to something because I want to like hear the stuff and be aware of stuff happening around me.
Sometimes sometimes I'll listen to something if I really don't want to spend time with my thoughts. Like I'm literally saying, I don't want to be with you, head. Like I want nothing to do with the thoughts that are swirling around inside of your brain. Let's find something else. How about something like a good relaxing murder podcast? Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I can
also
see
really
that.
like sometimes I go through phases where I don't want to listen to podcasts, and so I switch to audiobooks.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes that's like maybe the only reading I'm getting that week outside of articles and stuff. And I really love that. Especially if it's a memoir written and read by the person who wrote it. Like I very much enjoy those kinds of things. Like where
Yeah.
it's good. I'm thinking of like Jeanette McCurdy's book. I'm Glad My Mother's Dead. Like that's such a good book. She reads it so specifically. It is so much in her voice, and there's no one else who could read it, you know?
Yeah, no, I should try that. I've never tried. I mean, I feel bad that Mariah Carey, of all people, I should listen to her memoir.
I would like. I haven't listened to it yet either, but it's. I'm sure it's great.
Yeah, and then there's some memoirs I just like. One of my favorite things about thrifting is when you go to the book section and you look through the memoirs and you're just like, I can't even believe this person wrote a memoir. Honestly, anyone you can think of has a celebrity, A, B, C, or D list, has probably written a memoir.
Yeah.
Completely, if not 4 of them.
If not 4 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, how many does Justin Bieber have? Like 4, is it?
I'm sure he does. I don't know if he's read any of them though, because I can't see him committing to that kind of time.
No, I'm just like
You know what I
almost
mean? Like,
almost intrigued
yeah.
to read the first one. Like what could be in there?
Yeah. Yeah. I really liked when I was writing working on my Dirty Dancing book, I read both Jennifer Grey's and Patrick Swayze's memoirs as audiobooks, and I loved it.
Did they both read them?
Uh-huh.
Oh wow. Okay.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Like truly like wonderful. And it was it's just nice to spend time with those voices and hearing their stories, and, you know, just knowing that you're not getting everything and all the details, but knowing that you're getting like other stuff that you otherwise never get, because why would they talk about it unless it's in a book form, you know? It's just, yeah, it's great.
And I like the fact that we make a podcast where, you know, you can mention that, because in the rest of the world, telling everyone else that you've listened to the Patrick Swayze memoir might be a little bit weird.
You know, there's
Just a little bit, you know.
so many confessions I make on this podcast.
Yes.
Certainly that I listened to the Patrick Swayze memoir is not even going to make the top.
No,
20.
it is
Yeah,
not.
exactly.
I know that. Absolutely. But, you know, I'm excited to know. That's one of my actual celebrity sightings when I was in LA. I did see Patrick Swayze having dinner.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
At a place called Buddha Belly. And he was sitting outside, and I saw him sitting there, and it was quite a moment, I have to say. I wanted
is
to
a
run
moment.
up to him and just, but I was respecting. He was having dinner, and he did smile, which was kind.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
You know, one of my biggest celebrity sightings, and this is a segue to this movie. At
Wow.
a VIF film once, I was watching Joan Chen
Oh,
walked in
wow,
as a
okay.
surprise. And
Wow.
basically the entire audience just like was just beside themselves. Like it's because she looked so glamorous too. Like she was wearing like a fur stole. She had like her hair all done, and she looked like it's glamorous movie star. And yeah, I just like that. It was like probably 20 years ago, maybe.
And you still
even, like,
remember.
so long ago. And I still
Wow.
remember it. It was like, wow. Like I'm actually like, it is dazzling to see a movie star in real life. I think that was like the first and only time where like I felt like that.
Wow.
Wow.
And I don't think we've
shared
ever had.
airspace with Joan Chen.
I don't think we've ever had such a perfect segue into our topic. I don't think that's ever happened.
It's a red carpet unto itself.
Yes.
I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And we are doing a movie that has so many people.
So many.
A movie that I had never heard of before. AG said to us, hey, you ever heard of this movie?
I've never heard of it either.
But there's so many famous people in it.
I know.
It's
And
wild.
it's done by a director that did Bend It Like Beckham and Bride and Prejudice. Like,
Yeah. I had no idea.
It's wild that this movie got so buried. But we are talking about what's cooking.
Maybe it's the title.
maybe it's the title.
It sounds like a cooking show. It really does, you know?
You're right. I guess they could have gone with a more sort of like colloquial, like, what's cooking? You know, drop the G.
Even the poster,
do you think that would have?
But even the poster for it, like, did you look at it?
No.
Oh well,
is it wild?
Not great.
Okay, yeah. Maybe they spent the whole budget on 40 principal characters.
Yeah.
Because that is a wild choice. All that said, I'm really glad that this movie has made its way into my life.
Well, yeah, and you know, it's funny because if Gary Marshall had made this, which is what it feels like, we would have
100%.
seen it by now.
100%. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Gary Marshall or
Robert
what's his bucket?
Altman.
Robert
Yeah.
Altman. Thank you. That's the bucket I was trying to figure out. What's his bucket? Robert Altman. Yeah, for sure. I think we just have to talk about it because
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone else has ever heard of it.
Nobody else has ever heard of it either. And
Yeah.
But it's free to view on, what's the
Tubi?
thing called?
Tubi.
Tubi.
Yeah.
So it's there for your Thanksgiving pleasure.
Yes. Yes. Lisa, do you want to read the background?
Sure. What's Cooking is a 2000 comedy drama film directed by Gurinder Chadha and starring Mercedes Ruehl, Kira Sedgwick, Joan Chen, Lainey Kazan, Maury Chaikin, Juliana Margolis, Alfie Woodward, Dennis Haysbert, and really that's not even everybody, for sure.
There's so many
That's just
people.
the first layer of
There's so many. It's wild because Carlos is reading the cast list and he's like, A. Martinez, do you think that's the sports writer? And immediately I was like, no, he's the actor who's from the 90s soap opera Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Obviously. Anyway.
Of course you know that.
I'll read the synopsis. Gurinder Chadha's warm ensemble comedy offers a multicultural snapshot of Thanksgiving through the eyes and stomachs of four families. Black, Jewish, Latino, and Asian, as they prepare, and that's not the names of the families, that is their cultural and racial and ethnic backgrounds. As they prepare and share Thanksgiving dinner, the story is anchored by four moms, played by Lainey Kazan, Alfie Woodward, Mercedes Ruehl, and Joan Chen, who try to hold the holiday together despite lingering family tensions and spats over sexuality and cultural assimilation. Central to all four stories is food, and the camera lovingly ogles ingredients being chopped, spiced, and roasted according to the family's culinary traditions. Yeah, this is great food.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get very hungry.
It did make me extremely hungry because, like, I had just had a conversation with my family this year, and we were like, nobody likes turkey. Like, why do we bother making it? And so there was, like, a decision made that we were going to do that for Thanksgiving. And then I watched this movie, and I was like, I love turkey.
I love turkey.
I'm really
I
miss
can't
not
wait.
having turkey.
And I love, and it's even mentioned in the movie. The best part is, you're going to get it tomorrow.
And the next day.
And the next day, yeah.
I don't care about turkey. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm going to be the outlier here. No, it's fine. I don't hate it, but I just don't care about it very much. But once the one family switched to KFC, I was like, yeah, I could get into that.
I could eat KFC for Thanksgiving.
But
No
honestly,
problem.
it was the Avia's family. That meal looked amazing to me. Like all the meals look great, but I was like, if I'm gonna eat one meal, it's gonna be the Avia's family.
It looked like there was a lot going
I
on.
like how
a
there's-
lot.
Yeah.
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 But I like how this movie is that you're just like, deciding like theoretically which dinner party you would most like to be at?
Well, to be fair, I would like to be at none
Absolutely.
of these dinner parties.
Yeah.
Some awkward dinner
Very
parties.
awkward. Very,
Yeah.
very. I don't think I would want to be invited to any of them. All of them.
Well, that's why I think the synopsis kind of doesn't. Well, like, and I'm the one that found that synopsis, to be clear. But it kind of doesn't broach this, like how the movie's about, like, families being miserable at Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And families, like, kind of, like, being miserable, but still showing up for each other. And then, like, kind of working through some things. Some things have to be unresolved. And some things are just going to suck. And I think, like, that it gave me a little bit of, like, kind of feelings for, like, old family dinners, like when there was just, like, less fragmentation in my multiple families across the board, you know, when we were, like, younger and there would be larger family groups. And oftentimes there was a lot of miserable stuff happening, but, like, there was also always some fun stuff about it, you know? And so, like, I think that is captured extremely well throughout this film, even though there are absolutely moments that, one, I don't think hold up that well 23 years later, and two, sometimes feel like an after-school special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Especially the finding the gun under the bed was like.
Yeah, this movie has some, like, odd notes.
Yeah.
Like odd changes in tone.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant about the synopsis. It doesn't, like, really do it justice.
No.
It's like, it's not kind of just about different diverse families and how they celebrate Thanksgiving. It's also about like child finding with some gunplay. Like, it's it gets dark and scary at some points.
And it's also filled with a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Unnecessary mystery. Like, just
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, we didn't need those secrets. Like, and now I feel bad because you did put the name of the family, so I'll feel better talking about with their names. So the Williamses. The Williamses, this constant, sorry, dog barking. This constant, is Michael coming? It's just like, let us know what is going on. Like, it didn't seem very necessary. Because that whole family had a million mysteries for some reason.
Yeah.
That family had a million mysteries. I feel like there's a few little sort of, like, glints of what's to come, and you sort of understand a little bit because, like, they give you hints, but if you're not looking, like, say for instance you look down at, like, to just check out something on your, like, watch or whatever, and you miss the fact that, like, the opening moments are a ultra conservative jerk face politician who gets paint thrown at him because he's trying to, like, demonize immigrants and people of color and be awful and, like, play on, like, racist fears and anti-immigrant sentiment and stuff like that. Like, if you missed the one long look between Dennis Haysbert and the kid who plays his son, Eric K. George, and not even that long a look, but just a look, you really are going to spend the rest of the movie trying to, like, who's Michael and why do we care about him? Like, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, it just kept being
The stories, like, there's 4 families that we're following, but, like, the movie switches from story to story to story to story so quickly. Like, it's so fast paced and it never stops, and it kind of veers in all of these, like, into all of these unexpected dark places. And yeah, like, I found it a little bit, you're right, like, hard to follow if I just kind of decided to just only lightly pay attention for even, like, 2 minutes of this movie.
Well,
It's like,
and
I'm lost.
it doesn't...
I was just like, and the way that the way that it just unfolds, it was like very soap opera-esque, like the Avilas. Like, it's just like, okay, so
Yeah.
you invited the dad to the thing. Okay. I guess we're to assume that dad did something bad. Oh, he's alone, so he's not with some woman. And then you're like, his cousin? Like, what? Why? So she's not at the dinner? Like, this whole family, this giant family's there, which didn't make any sense. It was like all children, really, and then one older woman.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta say, like, and you don't know, like, so, and you have to sort of notice again that this woman is a principal at this school, and she's having this like relationship with this teacher, A. Martinez, Santa Barbara. Great job showing up. And I love Mercedes' role; it's great.
Yeah.
But like, just so if you don't pay attention to that they were in school together, and then suddenly they're rolling around in bed together, and he's having sex with her while her daughter's on the phone with her.
Yeah.
Which, I'm never a fan of that particular move. In any situation. Like, I just, and then you get this, like, this guy with this, like, even my grandma, who is legally blind and has to sit right on top of the television when the ex-husband shows up, and he has this weird different color of the soul patch attached to the rest of his beard. She was like, "Is he got something stuck under his chin? What's happening?" And I was like, "No, for some reason, the makeup people decided to only dye that one part of his soul patch is dyed black. He gets to have gray and brown hair the rest of his beard." It is the most incredible, like, if you don't tell me that, like, if I didn't know that man had cheated on his wife
Right?
with her cousin,
Yeah.
I knew it by that soul patch.
And how is it that he and Mercedes Ruehl, who's quite tall, have the smallest son in the whole show?
Yeah, that's a question.
I mean, I'm not saying Mom was doing something, but
But like, and also just like there are so many different kind of stereotypes that are leaned on a little bit heavily throughout this film that made me a little uncomfortable.
like Mrs. Costanza.
But just like, oh well, that was not the worst of it. I was thinking of the just like the ways in which like the Avias, the men in the Avias family are just we're dudes who drink beer, and we're gonna be sexist and then also racist to Jimmy, the boyfriend. That seemed very specific, but then also the music choices were kind of extremely I thought like I know that they changed music styles to have different sort of regionality representation, but every time we went to spend time with the Vietnamese family, there was like quote unquote Chinese chimes and stuff, like almost like a sort of like kind of a what can only be described as like sort of like I don't know. It was like it felt fetishistic, and it was weird.
We didn't need the signpost because we knew whose house we were in.
It was
very apparent.
It was just like, I don't know who those music designer was, but they should have sat down a little.
But do you think in the year 2000, like, how do you think people received this movie in the year 2000?
I feel like they would have thought it was too progressive. Like, people probably would have been critical of like how like hip and multicultural it was. Like that was like when we were hearing arguments about like, oh, everyone's so PC, like PC is bad, and like why make a film where we're like acknowledging the multiple lived experiences of a number of like historically oppressed people, like this film probably felt a bit more progressive in 2000.
But didn't Will and Grace come out in the 90s, right?
Well, I mean, I don't like late 90s.
Late 90s, okay, because I felt like the storyline for Kira Sedgwick and Julianne Margolis felt like it was in the 1950s. I
actually think it ended up weirdly enough. I think that is that was probably still sort of like reflective of attitudes towards women living together. Because like, think about it. We didn't have the L word to the mid 2000s.
True, but then that was reflective of what was going on already, right? Those relationships have been going on. And why did Julia Margolis have that tattoo? Like, it was very...
Oh, no, I thought that was Kira Sedgwick's tattoo, and that was to indicate that she was disappointing her Jewish family even more because she couldn't be buried in a Jewish cemetery.
Oh, I thought it was Julia Margolis that had the tattoo.
Oh, the one I thought you were talking about the lower back
that
tattoo.
one. Yes, I remember. That one. But Julia's tattoo was made me kind of laugh because I don't think she has that tattoo, but they really wanted to lean on these girls being very counterculture.
Well, it's, like we'd only had like Lilith Fair. I mean, really, feminist Lilith Fair had only existed from 97 to 99. Mm-hmm. This movie made in the year 2000. Like, I actually think like the sort of like homophobia of that family felt that was one of the more realistic aspects.
Really? Oh, I felt
for me.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think it's aged well.
Yeah.
But I felt like that was...
But
like, especially because they've got like the brother on the right side of history, and they've got the father, the sperm donor, is like the gay brother of the sister-in-law. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a real family baby.
Well, it's interesting how, like this movie was probably thought of as, as A-Dub said, like almost too progressive for its time in the 2000s. Like, it's interesting that it ends up not aging as well as movies that were like probably not progressive at all. Like it just seems dated. Whereas like some Thanksgiving movie with like sort of no politics in it doesn't have these same markers as feeling dated.
Well, I think because like they try to, I think what they kind of do is that like, obviously like a lot, especially like these four groups, their identities are politicized. And that's nothing that like, that's not the, like, that's sort of what happens when our society is the way it is. And within that, I think they're trying to shoehorn a lot of other issues into, like, they're not just dealing with people. It's like, these are all sort of issue oriented things, mm-hmm. right? Because like they're dealing with like, apparently gun violence and apparently gangs and apparently
premarital sex
and they're dealing with like gentrification, and they're dealing with like internalized white supremacy and internalized anti-blackness and like, and then challenges against, like they're dealing with a lot of things. And I think arguably too, and homophobia and anti sort of like, I don't know, like gender politics and stuff like that. Like and I think it can do all of those things, but I think it would be better served to anchor it in the people, not necessarily throw these other sort of like complications in, because like then it starts to feel like either a soap opera or an after school special, or like some kind of something that's not going to age that well, because like all of these people's, all of the oppression and circumstances that these folks are facing in 2000, we know that it hasn't really necessarily gotten better for a lot of people 23 years later. Mm-hmm. Their stories are still so valid and so interesting and so great. And when we spend time in those sort of like more of the family dynamics of things, I think it's a more successful film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to its credit, it did make, like the Williamses, for instance, like that story is actually, quite complex, and we don't.
It was,
see it much
absolutely.
With, with the son, like wanting to study African American history, and his father being against it, and like, why would you want to do that? Why do you want to go to Howard? Like, that was a interesting portrayal of the dynamics of that family.
And I think that that's one of the storylines that has aged the best. Mm-hmm. Honestly, like that's like a storyline that still feels really relevant.
But when we had, but then also the same thing could be said too for the villas, where this, as you said, like this the family structure was that the men all sat around and did what they wanted, and the women cooked all the food. And there they were confronted with the story of this man wanting this redemption, like, oh, so what if I went and had an affair? I'm back now, and the structure of our family is that the men rule and the women just listen. And that was an interesting dynamic within that family. You could see that tension.
Yeah.
And I do think it was really great when the grandmother is like, Abuela was just like, no, if Abuelo had been alive, you would never like, honestly, when she makes that statement and the dinner all goes quiet, like, I loved the moment that we get with Mercedes Rule. It's just like, no, this is over for me. Like, this is never going to happen. And I think he's indulged far too much. And the son is saddled with a character who has a very kind of a cool wife with a lot of agency who has no patience for this dynamic at all, tells him all the time, no, you like, you were not going to like fall into this sort of like,
go get your own
gender
beer.
binary with me.
You can see them
it's
playing
just, like,
with that
just stuff
idea,
like that. But like, and he so quickly like apologizes like at the end, like after behaving kind of like pretty terribly throughout most of the meal and stuff. Like, but again, like they get more time. I feel like the new ones are the ones saddled with the clunkiest storyline possible, because they are like just, you know, I think the daughter Jenny, Christy Wu, gives a honestly extremely excellent portrayal of a teenager who is so fed up. And so I have literally, look, I'm not gonna lie, I have recently watched a teenager have that exact meltdown. And I am sure that I have had that exact meltdown at some point, and it's uncomfortable to watch, and it's not fun, and it feels real silly. But in that moment, that like heartbreak that they feel, and then when her grandmother goes into the bedroom to comfort her and just lets her cry, and it, you know, it's very lovely. But then
we didn't need the gun under the bed too. Like, I mean, how many storylines did that one family need? You got Jimmy not coming home, so already that family strain. Then we had like 6 storylines.
Yeah, and yet they also, I felt, got like short, kind of shafted time wise. Like, we didn't spend as much time with them, I thought, but because we're dragging them in so many different directions and saddling them with so much stuff, like, I don't know. I was a bit frustrated with how the new ones got treated.
But it's amazing how kind of like the universal storyline in family gatherings and like what causes people stress is like their children not living up to their expectations.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very much the theme of this movie.
And that certainly shines through in every...
Yeah. Except
the Avilas. Like, I gotta say, like, they get to have sort of kind of like a very idealized relationship with their children, but it's like the children having to understand that the parents are people.
Yeah.
Well,
not
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's like parts of this movie where like that I didn't like at all. Like, I don't like how they made us feel with that child playing with a gun.
I hated that. Was so manipulative. I hated it.
Yeah. I was just like, they're not going to do it. They can't do that.
It's not that kind of movie. That's what I was thinking too.
You just don't know because it just comes out of nowhere. But yeah, I kind of like, to me, that was a real,
But they did that twice because
point.
That other scene where they go to the video store when she goes to deliver the movie back, and then there's that weird skirmish because her boyfriend is there, and they're all yelling. It was a very odd scene that didn't make any sense. They're all screaming and the gun's there and trying to get in the car, and that boy is yelling, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is where the gun's going to go off. So they did it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, I feel like that family got saddled with all the screaming. Mm-hmm. And I think from a sound design perspective, you're cueing us to have more frustration and less empathy towards that family. if it's just nonstop screaming. Like everyone else gets to have like a few normal conversations
Yeah.
at a normal volume. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's not. And I would have, I think I was interested in getting more of an idea of who Jimmy was as well. Cause like he's important in two families. Like he has like an important role and an important dynamic in two families. And he kind of just gets to be like, he's an object of, well, he's objectified in both families. He's objectified for his cute butt. And I will say, like, that man's gorgeous. Like, objectified by the Avias. And also then, like, kind of mocked for the assumption that everyone who is Asian is actually Chinese and Bruce Lee. But that's, racism. Great. And then in his own family, it's the sort of, like, hallowed first son kind of like role that he gets to play, and he can talk everyone down off of ledges and make sense of the children, et cetera, like, but he never really, like, we never get a chance to actually know who Jimmy is.
No.
Yeah, and then like at the end his story is just resolved, like he's just having dinner across the street with a different family at Thanksgiving. Like I don't feel like that would slide by that easily if that happened in most families. Like your son was like lying to you, he's eating across the street with this other family, and then he's just come home to join your family now and everything's fine.
Yeah.
The fact that stupid gun is the gunshot heard round the four corners of that neighborhood. Then everyone comes out into the street, because the first thing people do on any street is when you hear gunshots, you go outside to see if those gunshots are going to come closer to you.
And did we know up
and
to
that's
that
like
point
what makes the family talk to each other?
Yeah, that
like,
they were that close? That Jimmy was like,
no,
I had no
well,
idea that Jimmy was trying to hide from across the street.
It was so absurd, and that's, I think, the thing that makes the gun part of it all so much more egregious. Like, if you're only doing that so you can force this like revelation at the end that these four families who are so different and yet so the same are all also neighbors who don't know each other because we no longer talk to each other and communities have fractured or whatever, like nah, don't do that to me. But it felt very like that terrible movie that won the Oscar that's so awful, Crash, that has like all those lines that like all the storylines end up coming together and it turns out everyone's involved with each other. I mean, I'd rather watch this 1,000 times than ever watch that piece of crap again. Yeah. But like, it has to really pay off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one other question, just this is a small thing, but it bothered me. When we come to the Williams' house, when they walk in, there's a for sale sign on the yard. Did anyone else notice that?
Oh, yeah, I noticed that nonstop. But I figured that was, we're supposed to get a sense of I think we're supposed to understand that the marriage is on the verge of collapse or something.
But she was saying
no
at the end she was going to stay with him, right? Like Michael was upset.
Yeah, everything changes.
Michael was very upset, saying that, why have you decided to stay with him? You can leave. And she's like, well, I have to stay for you two. So, but they were about to sell the house? That's never addressed? Maybe it got edited out or something. They just didn't. I thought that's just a pretty big deal to see a for sale sign.
Constantly.
Yeah, constantly, yeah.
But like, so like the most upsetting moment was when the child was playing with the gun. But like this, for me personally, the second most upsetting moment was when the Williams' like Thanksgiving table collapses and all the food falls on the floor. Like I actually screamed, "Oh no!" like out loud when I saw that happen.
Save the turkey! Like, save the turkey!
Yeah.
I honestly also was like, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
Okay, but you know what? Take a step back. I'll say the most alarming part of the movie was when I thought maybe that turkey wasn't cooked and everyone was going to get botulism. They sure played that up.
They sure did.
Yeah.
And for the record, anyone listening, I don't think your turkey should ever look pink. That is not a thing. I don't care what they say in this movie. Turkey is not pink.
But she's been cooking it for 20 years.
Right? Yeah, I know. I'm just like, what? I'm not going to your house. I don't care. I don't know what your meat thermometer is doing.
I mean, I think the thing, like some of the stuff that they do so well though in this movie is like capturing that tension between mother and mother-in-law, or daughter and mother-in-law. Like that was perfect on a lot of levels. It was so uncomfortable. And I actually loved how as soon as she finds out that her son has cheated, that she just automatically holds him accountable. Like, this is the kind of movie that sets us up to think that she's not going to do that she's going to continue to think that her son walks on water. And that's simply not the case. And I think that it does a very good job of sort of coming through for a lot of the sort of like aggrieved mothers in this film, you know? Like, I was really happy about that. I also thought, you know, there's lots of reasons that feel difficult for as to why people stay after, you know, they have experienced infidelities in their marriages. And I thought Alfre Woodard did such a really beautiful job, actually, in that scene with her
eating
son.
the pie, yeah.
And just like talking about like, how is it weak to stay? Like, and you know, and I thought like she did a really compelling delivery of that whole exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goth Girl was certainly fun too, right? Bringing up the actual spirit of Thanksgiving, right?
Or Thanks-taking.
Thanks-taking, yeah.
Exactly. I honestly, I had to give it up to Goth Girl. She captured a lot of my feelings about. I don't observe Thanksgiving, and I'm certainly all for decolonizing, particularly in the U.S. Away from Thanksgiving. And outside of her, unless she is actually Indigenous, which was not to me clearly stated when she described. I can't remember what her exact phrasing was, but she basically was just like my indigenous kin or something to that effect, or some kind of phrasing. And I was like, I don't know about that, kid, but I appreciate your sentiment and on board with you. And I liked it when Michael and her bonded a little bit, and he got to say, I like you.
Yeah. That's Thanksgiving too, when they host for the families coming over.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Like, she just,
the next generation.
2 years older in the future.
Yeah.
And oh my God. Incredible. Like,
yeah, this movie, like, it does, like, there are all these weird moments. There's too many characters. The storylines are like kind of fall down in some places, but it does touch on this kind of universal feeling of like being at this family dinner with tension, and you can't predict what's going to happen, and like the stress of cooking, and
when
like,
political conversations start up, you know,
exactly. Yeah. And having those like older relatives or people you barely know that say like awful things that like you decide you don't want to get into an argument about over, you know, the dinner table kind of thing. Like, yeah, it does kind of like capture that feeling of like the stress of family celebrations really well.
Oh yeah.
It absolutely is like kind of a pressure cooker of tension on some levels, but also it has like a hominess to it too that I think it's very difficult to accurately convey what a nightmare it can be to have a large extended family and other people as well. So you're pulling a lot of different factors into a room together, and then you put them around a table and you tell them that you're having a meal together and it's a tradition and you're going to uphold this tradition, and this is something you should be happy about.
Yeah.
When so many people at the table really might not be happy, or might be like being asked to not be themselves. So how can they like have a pleasant you know what I mean? Like, I think it does capture it really well, as much as there are pieces of it that haven't aged well at all.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's still, I mean, you have to ask yourself if you want to go down that dysfunctional family dinner, if that's something that you've experienced many times before.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to think of it in the timeline of Gurinder Chadha's movies, because the next movie that she makes is Bend It Like Beckham 2 years later, and then Bride and Prejudice is 2 years after that. And so, like, you can see she's kind of like honing her storytelling in this movie, because this is like the fifth feature that she made.
Wow. Okay.
That's pretty great. And I do think, like, especially to go from this to Bend It Like Beckham, like, you can see how much she grows as a filmmaker between those two films. Like,
but still
Like
having
Beckham
that
is just
family,
so good.
You can still see that the center of her movies is family.
Yeah. And I think she really does do such a good job. And especially when we get to the Bride and Prejudice, like, you know, we loved so much of that. And I that's a really, like, excellent progression. And I do appreciate that she has, like, cast so many interesting people in this film. Like, yes, it's a very sprawling cast, and it's kind of too chaotic to be completely successful, but there are some really standout performances. Like, and I've never appreciated Keira Sedgwick at all, really. I've seen Singles, but I still didn't appreciate that so much. But I thought she was very good in this.
You ever seen Phenomenon?
Yeah,
with John
sorry, I was wrong.
That was so terrible. Oh my god.
This What's Cooking is her second feature.
Okay.
She made
second. Okay.
She
That
made
makes
2
sense.
short films and a short documentary, plus a movie called Badgie on the Beach was her first movie, and this was her second.
Okay. Well, I mean, I still think it makes sense that, like, by Bend It Like Beckham 2 years later, that's incredible.
But for someone who's kind of relatively at the beginning of her career at this point, like, getting a cast like this together,
Right?
for a movie, that's
But
that's
you know
pretty
what
incredible.
also I thought was
Absolutely.
pretty important about this movie too was it being set in LA. It's like a very LA movie. Like, you know, the stories, the kinds of people living there, like that, their experience is very, very LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I really, I mean, I know that we're sort of at the point where we decide if it pops or not, and I'm going to say it pops for me.
Yeah, I'm going to say it pops for me. I love a good sprawling family holiday special. They're like we did the whole Gary Marshall experience, right? Like, we've watched them all. The sprawling sagas. This
is genius compared to some of
those ones we've, like,
Gary Marshalls
I
we've
still will
watched.
be a sucker for them. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would say too, is like in the pantheon of like Thanksgiving holiday movies, like, just add this one in. Like, it's decent. It's really good. I think, like, it gives you comfort. There's something, like, you can relate to. It also throws you curveballs. Like,
Sure
it
does.
literally screams out loud.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it pops. And I think it should be more it's like criminally unheard of. Like, it's utterly bizarre that we've never even heard of this movie.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Agreed.
I know. I think it's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And again, I think part of it has to do with that poster. But that's
Maybe it'll get like a 25-year anniversary redesign poster.
Yeah.
it deserves that for sure. Yeah.
We love to leave our episodes in something we recommend. Lisa, would you like to go first?
Sure. So I have been watching the 3rd season of The Morning Show with Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon.
I've heard it's chaotic.
It's chaotic. And speaking of casts, I mean, they added John Hamm in there this year, and I didn't think we needed him. We've got everybody else in this show. It's just like, it's incredible, sprawling cast. So I don't know. It's a weird show. I don't know if I really like it. I don't, or I just find myself watching it because it's just always, it's like one of these shows where there's never just like a regular scene. Nobody's ever having downtime. It's always hysterical. It's always, 100 miles an hour. It's like always like that. So it's a very odd rhythm to get involved in, but I'm there and I'll stick it out.
I'm there and I'll stick it out. That's a great
ringing
review.
endorsement from Lisa Christiansen. Love it. Love it. AG, what about you?
Well, by the time this episode comes out, it's in the middle of VIF, and I want to recommend VIF because the program is really incredible this year. There's so many things I want to see. There's the new Miyazaki movie that I'm like so excited about that I want to go see. It's called The Boy and the Heron. I'm going to go see like this live documentary that's going to have like live music accompaniment to it from J.D. Sampson. It's called
Yay, J.D. Sampson.
It's a documentary, by Sam Green. It's called 32 Sounds. But yeah, like there's just tons of amazing films in the VIF catalog this year, and everyone should check it out.
Excellent.
I'm going to go see the documentary about Indigo Girls.
Oh, yeah, I would like
Nice.
to see that too.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be after this airs, but at least when I'm going. But if you want to come, Lisa, we're going Saturday, 3:00 at Rio.
This Saturday? Oh, yeah, of course. It's on this Saturday. This means nothing to anyone listening right now, but it does to me.
Yep. It's an invitation only for Lisa and AG.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone else. But go see the Indigo Girls doc during the rest of VIF or something else. That'd
Yeah,
be
it's
great.
probably one of those films that'll play after as well. Like, I mean, when I go to,
I would have.
when I go to Film Fest, a lot of times for me, I always try to think of those films that you won't get a chance to see otherwise. But a lot of
It's
them are going to
true,
go
but I'm
into
just
regular. No, it's not that it's bad to see. It's just that the Film Fest is such a wonderful opportunity to see things that are just so out there that you would never see.
Yeah, I'm just so overly excited about the new Studio Ghibli movie that I just can't.
Yeah, no, I
can't hold
understand.
back.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I'm going to recommend something that if you wanted to come and hang out with me IRL, you can, because I will be in conversation with my friend Stacey Easton at Massey Arts Society on October 7th. They have written, they've written a new book called Daddy Lessons, and I will give you a little write-up about it. These are two different lines, and I am teaching my brain to read in order. Okay. Cowboy erotica meets Kathy Acker in this smart, raunchy look at a queer sexual awakening. Part memoir, part literary study, part formulist exercise in excitement, Daddy Lessons is a transgressive text of pleasure, bodies, the Lord, and the West.
Wow. Okay.
That sounds intriguing.
Yes.
Stacey's a genius. They're super fun. We're going to have a great time chatting with each other, and you should buy their book, and you could buy their book and they would sign it for you in person on October 7th at, I believe, 6 p.m. at Massey Arts Society.
Oh, amazing.
Nice.
All right.
Yay!
Yay.
Yay! Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us, listening to us online, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Discovering new movies with us.
Yes.
Yeah, discovering new movies
From
with us.
2000.
Get that Tubi. Get that Tubi from 2000. You can rate and review us 5 stars as well.
Yeah. And thanks to Andrea Gin, our co-host, producer, and also excavator of movies that we've all never heard of.
But should have heard of.
But should have heard of.
Should
Yeah.
have heard of. Oh, this is like a very like clunky thing, but like I forgot to hype it. Like, so we're recording 2 episodes in a row tonight, everyone who's listening. So don't be shocked, but that's sometimes something that we have to do because, and I forgot to say this in the episode that's actually going to air next week. That's like kind of more relevant, but I have to humble brag myself that my new book is out on October 17th.
Woo!
And if you would like to go check it out, you can, because it will be available for purchase and stuff like that. It's called Rise Up and Sing, Power, Protest, and Activism in Music. It's for middle readers, for like ages 11 to 14-ish. And it is illustrated by a really wonderful local illustrator named Louise Reimer. And I'm just very excited about it. I'm like, I feel like this book has been in the works for like the whole pandemic. And so just for it to come out and finally be almost here, it's very exciting. So
that is exciting.
We're all very proud of you.
Congratulations. That's yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, I should just say that. So it's
You
coming
should,
out
of course.
October 17th. Yeah.
Yay. Okay. Fantastic.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I really threw a wrench in how we normally do things.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thank you everyone for listening.
Bye.
Bye.